explosive. This thing, I had to try it and it's messed up, so I'm going to read Bo Mountain Gary's Kaboom, and this is really funny and explosive. That made me think that I want to go to McDonald's or something. Let's read this thing. Professor Bard lay on his antique cheese lounge. His face is covered in soot, and he was paralyzed by the sweltering heat he had then taken over his office. Just then, the Zolaris and Zeta entered Professor Bard's office. Professor Bard, Ace exclaimed, "Are you okay?" "Yes, Professor, what happened and why is it so hot in your office?" added Isha. Zeta checked the temperature on the thermometer. Isha's correct. My thermometer is showing it's 46.6% hotter in this office compared to the outside. I just can't fully remember. There was a bang, replied Professor Bard then, just before he fell into deep sleep. Molly raced over and then proceeded to apply a cold cloth to Professor Bard's forehead. Lottie, can you please open the windows? We need some fresh air in here, asked Molly. And Oscar, can you get Professor Bard a glass of water before he wakes up? Lottie and Oscar proceeded to do as asked, while the rest of the Zoleros checked the room for clues. From the look of Professor Bard, it appears there was a mini explosion in here. He's got soot all over his face, commented Rue. Has Professor Bard been doing any more of his science experiments? No, the professor only does experiments out in the lab. So something else must have happened, replied Zeta. Isha, I'm detecting a very unusual burning smell from somewhere in this room. Can you see anything suspicious with your superbiotic vision? Asked Ace. After searching the walls, ceiling, and floor, Isha zoomed in on something that caught her eye next to the couch. Isha crouched down to look closely with a scrutinizing stare. What is it, Isha? Asked Zeta. Isha stuck her index finger into the cracks of the wooden floorboards and brought her finger right up to the tip of her nose. Burnt paper, Isha replied. There's a small piece of smelly burnt paper on the floor. She quickly... Zeta and the professors looked at each other, confused as to why there was burnt paper and how it got inside Professor Bard's office. After a few minutes, much to Zolair's relief, Professor Bard woke up. He's very thirsty, and guzzled the glass of water Oscar had for him. Are you okay, Professor? Asked Lottie. My head hurts, but I'll be okay, said Professor Bard. Thankfully, the professor's memory had now returned. When I came into my office today, there was a package waiting for me. The package contained a note. What did the note say? Asked Rue. Well, all I can remember was it saying, the volcano is going to go kaboom. Then the note actually went kaboom itself. So the professor...
This gonzo does not support editing.
The burnt paper that Isha found must have been what was the note, said Ace. Who would have sent you the note, but why? Asked Isha. I don't know, but I'm worried whoever it is that worked out a way to make the volcano erupt, replied Professor Bard. Bone Mountain is meant to be a completely extinct volcano, said Rue. It would be disastrous if Bone Mountain erupted, exclaimed Lottie. The whole Both City would be covered in melting lava. We had to do something. Meanwhile, Zeta tapped in her laptop and obtained a heat image of Bone Mountain. Yes, there's definitely something going on in the volcano. I can see 7 extreme heat pockets surrounding the mountain. Professor Bard knew that the Zoleros needed his help for this mission, so he went to his secret cabinet. It appeared that the excitement of the adventure to save Both City, and just what the doctor ordered for Professor Bard, because he had apparently forgotten about his headache. You will need some special clothing to keep your body temperatures regulated, said Professor Bard to the Zoleros. He unlocked a secret cabinet and pulled out some futuristic electric blue suits. You are all going to need these, he said with a twinkle in his eye. He handed each of the Zaleros their suits and goggles, including a special one for Zoro. Thanks, Professor. These are pretty cool suits, said Ace. I almost feel like a superhero. Do you have one with the cape? Giggled Lottie, and everyone laughed. I've also got a special ice mini fizz for you to take to the volcano, Zeta interrupted. What is an ice mini fizz? Asked Lottie. It sounds delicious. No, you don't eat it, Lottie. It's my latest invention, replied Zeta as she pulled out a pink-looking crystal. All you have to do is to lick the ice mini fizz, and it'll start fizzing and give off a supercharged burst of cold air. You'll almost feel like you are in Ice Bow again. But remember, it will only last for 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Awesome. I bet it will come in handy, said Oscar as he put the ice mini fizz into his backpack. Come on, team, Ace yelled with excitement. You heard what the professor and Zeta said. We have a city to save. Just then, the whole building shook. Zeta noticed Professor Bard's favorite antique vase rattling about on the shelf, and she caught it just before it hit the floor. Phew, that was close, she exclaimed. Thanks, Zeta, Professor Bard said with a sigh of relief. That's my favorite vase in the expedition to Egypt. The volcano must be rumbling. There's no time to lose. The Zaleros linked arms and chanted. 4 points of the earth, moon and sun, unite together and become as one. It's off the Bow Mountain we go! The Zaleros were in the middle of a lush green forest. Bow Mountain was just a short distance away. The heat was really intense. It's lucky we have these suits, Oscar said. I can't believe that Professor Bard even had a special suit to fit Zoro, giggled Lottie. They walked towards the mountain when another rumble from the volcano shuddered and shook the ground beneath them. The Zaleros turned and looked up to see that thousands of bouncy balls were blasting out from the top. Look out! Yelled Rue. Take cover! Luckily, the Zaleros were able to duck under a rock ledge as the bulls bounced past. Phew, that was close, said Molly. This is all very strange. First, the exploding note from Professor Bard. Then thousands of bouncy bulls erupting from the volcano. Who could possibly be doing this? Well, I'm not sure, pondered Ace, but I think we need to get to the volcano's summit to see what's happening inside. As the Zaleros headed closer to the volcano, Zoro picked up on a scent and hurriedly darted off into the forest. The Zaleros chased hard and Lottie went to supersonic speed on her rollerblades, quickly managing to catch up to Zoro. However, just as they reached a clearing, the ground trembled again, sending Lottie into a giant jumping castle. When the rest of the Zaleros caught up what they saw, a slightly stunned Lottie standing up, getting ready to do some great jumps on the castle. Look, guys, some nice person has really put this good jumping castle here on this forest, said Lottie. Do y'all want to jump on for a quick turn? Ace had to look around and notice the sign. Watch out, Lottie. Don't do any more jumps. Just get off as calmly as you can. Why? I don't understand, asked Lottie as she got off carefully. This sign says that the price for 3 jumps is 1 kaboom, replied Ace. The jumping castle has been booby-trapped. Isha had a closer look at the jumping castle and discovered a thin wire leading from it, which appeared to be a thick green bush. When Isha brushed aside the leaves, she saw a dozen sticks of dynamite with the word "enjoy" written on them. Oscar retrieved a screwdriver and some pliers and proceeded to disconnect the explosives and make the area safe. Well, as much as I would love to stick around and try to do some jumps, I think we had better press on to try to get to this volcano, stated Oscar. The Zaleros looked up at the top of the volcano, and this time they saw millions of paper airplanes flying out. Everything is so wacky. We had better be extra careful, warned Molly. Lottie, we need you to make one of your super-duper bubbles to carry us up top to the volcano, said Ace. You will need to make it thicker than usual, otherwise the heat will melt it. Can you do it? Lottie nodded and took her bubble gum from her pocket. She put an extra 2 pieces in her mouth and chewed hard. Lottie took a deep breath and blew one of the biggest, thickest bubbles that the Zaleros had ever seen. The Zaleros formed a chain and held onto Lottie's giant bubble and were just about to reach the peak when suddenly the volcano rumbled again. Uh-oh, said Lottie. Instead of bouncing balls or paper airplanes, this time it's darts. Look out! 3 darts whizzed past, and just as the Zolero started to think they were safe, one hit the bubble, making a hole in it. Air gushed out of the bubble, making it fly around like a partially blown-up balloon they had just been let go of. The Zoleros held on for dear life as the bubble zoomed out of the volcano, eventually catching on a bit of rock on the crater. The Zoleros lay gasping for breath at the edge of the volcano. Giggling gumballs! That was close! Exclaimed Lottie. Whoever is behind this sure has a very unusual sense of humor, pondered Rue. Well, I bet we'll find out soon enough just who that is, Ace interjected. The Zoleros and Zora gathered around the massive opening at the top of the volcano, and they looked out inside. It was pitch black, and they couldn't see anything at all. But they heard noises, mechanical noises coming from within. Isha lay flat on her stomach and looked inside with her bionic vision. I can see a silver machine down with some colorful chimneys at the top. Does anyone have any ideas as to how we can get down there? Asked Ace. I could tie my rope to the ledge and we could all have sailed down the inside of the volcano, suggested Oscar. Well, I sure don't fancy another Gumball Express ride, so I think Oscar's idea sounds good, added Lottie. Oscar pulled out a very long rope from his backpack and attached it securely to a large rock nearby. He wrapped it around his waist and tied it in a knot. I will go down first and check everything's okay, said Oscar. He stepped over the edge of the volcano and was most of the way down, when suddenly another loud rumble occurred. This time streamers shot up from the bottom of the volcano, and Oscar had to duck to avoid being covered in them. Oscar reached the bottom of the volcano near the machine and secured the rope. He signaled to the rest of the Zoleros, who quickly scaled down the rope. The machine had a large W embossed on it and also named Vulcanator. They crept up and peered with their window and noticed some familiar blue spiky hair. Aha! It's Dr. Weevil, whispered Molly. Yes, it's just like him who wanted to create havoc with explosions and do all sorts of wacky things, said Isha. Do you think Dr. Weevil will ever get sick of doing these crazy things? Asked Lottie. I can't imagine it, laughed Oscar. It seems he just can't help himself. Dr. Weevil was standing at the control panel, pushing buttons and eating popcorn, when the loud siren of all of a sudden started blasting. The Zolero sprinted across the bottom of the volcano, in search of a hiding spot. But just as they got near the edge, they were caught by what appeared to be a giant spider's web. Ha! I got you at last, Zoleros! Shrieked Dr. Weevil in this high-pitched voice. I was hoping that you would join me in my lovely volcano, and I'm sure you will all enjoy the fun I've got installed for Bow City. You'll never get away with this, Dr. Weevil, Ace said boldly. Oh, I think you will find that I will. It's going to be so much fun, retorted Dr. Weevil. My next blast will be 1,000,000 capsules of stinky oil, and then the grand finale will be the lava. Dr. Weevil laughed so much that he got the hiccups.
This gonzo does not support editing.
I'm going to leave you now, trapped in that wonderful volcanic web. So I've got some finishing touches for the next laugh. Dr. Weevil turned and headed back to the Vulcanator machine. The Zoleros tried wriggling around, but they just couldn't budge with the stinky mess they were entrapped in. They tried to escape. The word seemed to engulf them. So, guys, exactly what creature might have made this web? Asked Amali wordly. I read once about a huge furry volcanic spider, but I still think it doesn't exist, said Rue. Do you happen to know the spiders are orange with blue spots on them? Shrieked Amali. Yes, that was it, said Rue. How did you know that? B, because there's one going right toward us, and I'm very scared of Molly. Screamed the Zaleros.
This Gonzo does not support editing.
Grow, Zoro, grow. Commanded Ace instead of growing. Zoro took one look at the spider and it shrunk to the size of the mouse. Zoro must be just as afraid of the enormous spider as we are, cried Molly. As this spider lives in a volcano, he must really love heat. How do you think it would go with the cold? Asked Isha calmly. I don't know, but it's very hot in here and it doesn't seem as though we're able to find out, panicked Lottie. Oscar, can you reach the ice mini phase Zeta gave you? Asked Isha. I think so, said Oscar as he contorted himself to get to his backpack. Oscar found the pink crystal just as the spider reached to Molly. Hurry, I can feel his fur, and it's really making me squirm, appealed to Molly. Watch out, guys, it's gonna get cold, called Oscar as he licked the ice mini fizz. But at first, nothing happened. By now, the spider was around Molly's neck, and she was wriggling more than ever. Finally, the Zaleros heard a fizz, and there was a tremendous blast of ice-cold air. Oscar pointed the ice mini fizz towards the spider and instantly froze him solid. Molly and the rest of the Zaleros let out a huge sigh of relief. Oscar then decided to point the ice mini fist toward the spiderweb, being careful not to get to the other Zaleros. Why are you freezing the web? Asked Ace. Maybe if it's frozen, we will be able to escape by snapping it, replied Oscar. Hey, these suits protect you from the cold as well as the heat, cheered Rue. Oscar was right. The Zaleros were able to snap out of the spider's web after it was frozen. Thank you so much for saving that spider, Oscar, said Molly. Not only he was huge and furry, but he also had stinky breath. Maybe he had eaten some of Dr. Weevil's stinky oil capsules, joked Lottie. That reminds me, added Ace. We have to stop Dr. Weevil from blasting his smelly capsules all over Bow City. The Zaleros crept back over to Dr. Weevil's Vulcanator and tried work our way in. Molly, if you can get up that Nimbler chimney, you should be able to see what Dr. Weevil's doing, said Isha. No problems. This'll be a cinch, stated Molly as she launched into a perfect triple somersault. She landed near the blue chimney and did a little curtsy to the cheering Zaleros below. As Molly watched Dr. Weevil pushing buttons on the control panel, she noticed a note next to him that said door code, and beneath it was the word
Kaboom.
Molly rejoined the rest of the Zaleros and told them of the password to the door, which Rue entered. Rue carefully lifted the hatch door with some help from Ace and Oscar. It was extremely heavy, but they managed to open it. How odd, pondered Rue. Even though the whole machine is made of metal, it is not to touch. A strong gust of cold air blew over the inside of the machine and brushed against their faces. Wow, said Lottie. Did you feel that? The Zaleros all looked at each other in confusion. How can it be so hot inside the volcano and yet so cold inside the machine? Asked Molly. Of course, murmured Rue to the others. Dr. Weevil must have a cooling unit inside the Vulcanator to counteract the heat. How ingeniously clever. Just then, the Zaleros saw Dr. Weevil push a big red button on the control panel, which made the volcano shake violently. The Zaleros stumbled about and fell back down to the floor of the volcano. Poor Zoro was that lucky as he was thrown to the cabin of the Vulcanator. Dr. Weevil heard the thud behind him and turned and saw Zoro scrambling to get to his feet. Zoro growled and snarled at him. You mangy mutt, shrieked Dr. Weevil. How did you get in here? Where are your meddling friends? Dr. Weevil anxiously looked around and aside his machine, but couldn't find the Zaleros anywhere. The Zaleros, in the meantime, had closed the hatchet door just enough so that Dr. Weevil couldn't see them on the roof. Well, it looks like it is just you and me, and you will never be able to stop me on your own. Dr. Weevil chuckled as he turned back around and continued to work at the control panel. The Zaleros needed to get to the machine to save Zoro and to stop Dr. Weevil from shooting the stinky oil and lava all over Bow City. You go first, Amali, whispered Rue. You are the most agile of all of us, but he probably won't be able to hear you. I need to go in head first, she replied. That way my shoes won't make a noise when they hit the floor. Rue, Oscar, and Ace lifted the heavy metal door once more and held it open just wide enough for Amali to slide through it head first into one of her brilliant handstands. She crept over and hid inside of a cupboard and then bench of the control panel. Amali watched Dr. Weevil as she turned knobs on a handheld device and pushed buttons on the control panel. It looks like Dr. Weevil is trying to set a timer, she reported back to the Zaleros through her medallion. The Zaleros realized that there was no time to waste. Ace, Rue, and Oscar opened the door and the Zaleros jumped in.
Tut.
Dr. Weevil turned and saw the Zaleros in the machine, but he had noticed that Amali was missing. He chuckled. You're too late this time, Zaleros. He shuffled over the far end of the control panel and hurried pushed button after button. My settings are almost complete. The timer will be set and this rotten volcano will erupt and cover all Bow City with sticky oil and lava. I will finally be ruler of Bow City and the world, he screeched in his high-pitched voice. Not if I have anything to do with it, said a muffled voice. The cupboard door flung open. Amali jumped out. Dr. Weevil was knocked onto his backside and he slid across the floor. Before the Zaleros were able to get him, Dr. Weevil got back to his feet and said, You can't stop me that easily. I've got more special tricks planned especially for you. Dr. Weevil pressed the purple button on the controller, and suddenly the Zaleros are trapped in a huge blue and yellow cage, since you Zaleros like Bow City so much. You can be shot out with all of my stinky oil capsules. That way you'll be just in time to see the lava come. Oh, I'm so clever. Dr. Weevil now pressed the yellow button on his controller, and the cage lifted off the ground and headed down to a long corridor labeled Launchpad. I don't know about you guys, but I think I preferred that spider to being shot back to Bow City with stinky oil, said Lottie nervously. Don't worry, guys. I think I've got an idea that just might work, said Oscar. I hope so, cried Lottie as the cage headed over an enormous container of stinky oil capsules. When they were over the center of the container, the bottom of the cage opened up, dropping the Zaleros in with the stinky oil capsules. Ah! Screamed Lottie. Crawling around with all of the capsules was like being in a giant ball pit, and the Zaleros struggled to stay afloat. Oscar managed to retrieve a rope from his backpack and lassoed it to one of the chimneys on Dr. Weevil's Vulcanator, and they were able to pull themselves back onto the roof. A short siren went off, followed by Dr. Weevil's screeching voice over the loudspeaker. 3 minutes to blast off. Lottie screamed, does not support entity. When we were on the roof before, I noticed that this orange chimney is actually where the stinky oil capsules will be blasted from, said Oscar. Yes, but how will that help us? Asked Amali. If we can modify the settings, we can change it so that the stinky oil does not go into Bow City, responded Oscar. That's brilliant, Oscar, chimed in Rue. How about we just make it so the capsules just shoot back straight up to make the window straight back down and fill the volcano? Exactly what I was thinking, said Oscar excitedly. Oscar and Rue made the alterations to the orange chimney, while Lottie prepared a giant bubble for their escape. 1 minute and counting, Zaleros. Hee hee hee, shrieked Dr. Weevil over the loudspeaker. When Oscar and Rue were satisfied with the modifications to the chimney were complete, as the Zaleros all grabbed on tight to Lottie's bubble and took it out of the volcano. Just as they reached the top, they could hear Dr. Weevil commence his final countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! The volcano let out an almighty rumble, and millions of sticky oil capsules started blasting out from it.
This gonzo does not support editing.
The Zolaris had reached a safe spot just as they entered the crater, time to see the capsules fly straight up into the air. After about 30 seconds, the capsules started coming by straight down. Again, and the Zolaris could hear them popping up the top of Dr. Weevil's volcanator. Over the next few minutes, the millions of stinky oil capsules landed in the volcano, completely filling it up with smelly goo. Luckily for Dr. Weevil, his volcanator floated and rose to the surface of the crater. The door to the volcanator opened, and the Zolaris could see Dr. Weevil down on his hands and knees, hitting the floor with his fists. "How could you ruin everything, Zolaros?" screeched Dr. Weevil. "This is such a perfect plan. It's not fair." "Oh yes, it is fair, Dr. Weevil," responded Isha. "We couldn't allow you to destroy Bow City. It's our favorite place in the whole world." "Dr. Weevil, you invent some amazing things," said Amali. "Why can't you invent things to help people rather than hurt people?" "My inventions do help people. They help me," exclaimed Dr. Weevil. "That doesn't count, Dr. Weevil," responded the Zolaros. The Zolaros waited with the angry, grumpy Dr. Weevil and transported back to Bow City. "What an adventure!" exclaimed Professor Bard after the Zolaris told him all about what happened. "Now, don't take this the wrong way," said Xena, "but you Zolaris really are a bit smelly." "Yes, that stinky oil packs quite a bunch," laughed Oscar. "I even got some got in my bubble gum, and it tasted disgusting," said Lottie. "It was very funny watching Dr. Weevil having to swim in the stinky oil. The police told him that it was the only way he would get out, as they were going near it to rescue him," giggled Amali. "He spent the whole time blocking his nose." "Imagine what would have happened to Bow City if the stinky oil capsules had landed on it," said Isha. "But the lava would have been even worse," reminded Ace. "Thankfully, you stopped him and saved Bow City again," said Professor Bard. "I think this calls for a celebration. I might just have about enough time before my museum tour," he added as he looked at his pocket watch. "How about a big plate of spaghetti?" he asked the Zolaros. "That would be great, Professor Bard, but I think you might want to get these filthy blue suits in the washing machine first," laughed Oscar. A few days later, the police rang Professor Bard and said part of Dr. Weevil's punishment he was going to have spend 10 days helping out the Bow City Museum. The police wanted to know that Professor Bard could use him more. "That's easy," said Professor Bard. "I'll get Dr. Weevil to make a new exhibition on wacky inventions that makes everyone laugh. Maybe then he'll learn that it's much more fun to help people and make friends than it is to be mean and nasty and try to rule the world."
This gonzo does not support editing.
I've got the gink. I've got the gink. Some Gonzo singing some Gonzo sings Coca-Cola. "Don't you take this the wrong way and get your freed end of Coke." "You're doing it wrong, Gonzo. No items. Explode your freak validation."